This is One on One with Jane Mitchell.
Alan Trammel is roaming a baseball diamond once more, now as the Padres' first base coach. A World Series hero, a Hall of Fame prospect, even on Magnum PI. Quite a Detroit Tigers tale with a new chapter coming home.
It's just a great feeling, and I really welcome telling the story.
It is rare, especially in baseball, to have events align in such a way as to allow someone to come full circle, to have a dream, fulfill it, then return to the place where it all began, not just for a visit. The rarity is not lost on Alan Trammel, whose enthusiasm over his newest opportunity is contagious. No ifs, ands, or buts.
That's it.
Alan Trammel talks the talk and walks the walk.
Oh, my!
He is baseball through and through.
I still have energy, and I want to use that to my advantage.
And for the first time, wearing Padres blue.
When I first put it on there, I will say that I took a couple looks. I mean, just because I'd put that Detroit uniform on so many times.
For 20 seasons with one club, the Detroit Tigers. A run enjoyed by only two other Tigers, the legendary Ty Cobb and Al Kaline, and a rarity in the game today. But Trammel didn't just wear that uniform, he earned a place in Major League history in it. As one of the most accomplished shortstops ever.
He was a very fundamentally sound player. He knows the right way to do things and the wrong way to do things.
An all-star year after year. I mean, played a tough position. You have to be very durable to play his position.
There's a right way and a wrong way, and he obviously did it the right way.
Like a perfectly worn-in glove, Trammel is fitting in with the Padres because he's played with or against many of them over his 20-year career, and because he's feeling a home field advantage, having returned to his roots. Alan Stewart Trammel was born February 21, 1958, into a middle-class family in Orange County. Even before he was walking, his mother Ann recalls he was a natural.
I would sit him down in the living room on the rug there. I would get one of the softballs and either roll it to him or throw it to him. And I wasn't always accurate, but he was.
What were you like as a little kid?
Antsy, a lot of energy. Always wanted to do something with a ball, whether it be baseball, basketball, football.
He has two older sisters, Lynn and Nancy.
I think that he learned to run before he learned to walk. He was very precocious for his age. He was playing with boys who were 2, 3, sometimes 4 years older than him.
He didn't let things bug him. You know, whether it was two sisters, giving him a bunch of grief and him having to stick up for himself as our little brother, or whether it was holding his own with his friends, and toughing it out. He always took everything in stride.
When he was 5, his family moved to San Diego. His mother, who had 2 athletic brothers, encouraged Alan's young ambition.
He taught me how to shoot the ball, how to hold the ball and shoot. And when his friends in the neighborhood, he would come around to play with them, he would tease them and say, "My mom could play better than you." Shoot the ball. It was fun.
His early memories of Major League Baseball,
this is Ben Scully speaking to you.
Listening to games on a transistor radio.
I'd be riding around on my bike during the summer listening to ball games, and of course my mom used to always have it on in the house.
But in San Diego, Alan Trammel was able to absorb the game firsthand. He lived up above Mission Valley and went to elementary school in Serra Mesa with Drew Skinner and his brothers. Their dad, Bob Skinner, a former World Series ball player, was managing the AAA Padres and let them tag along to Westgate Park.
When you have a deep love for baseball like Alan has and had at that time, as well as my children, it was a fun period.
I fell in love with it each year even more.
And when the Padres joined the National League in 1969, Alan Trammel was there for Game 1.
It was incredible. We wanted to think, oh my gosh, we're going to win 100 ball games this year.
Despite some lean early years,
it was Major League Baseball, and that's all that mattered.
The stadium became stomping grounds for Trammel and his buddies.
Baseball was our love, and we just wanted to be inside the ballpark.
So whether it was under a fence or over a wall,
as kids do, we found a way to get in.
Did you ever get in trouble?
No.
No one cared?
No, I don't think so. And that's really probably the bottom line. Again, back in those times, averaging about 8,000 to 10,000 people.
They're probably happy to have you.
They were happy to have us.
Working as a vendor, he saw a lot of games. but he was mesmerized by batting practice. He recalls one time when his baseball idol Roberto Clemente came to town with the Pirates.
They took their early BP, but when they left, Roberto Clemente and Manny Sanguin were two names that I remember that their bats were still in the bat rack. And they were right there, and there was nobody there. And my friend and I, it was just the two of us that particular time, we had Roberto Clemente's bat in our hand, and we were thinking, boy, we'd like to have that. And then we started thinking that if Roberto Clemente did not get any hits that night, we'd be upset, because we were, of course, fans. And we left them there, but we did have them in our hands, and felt awfully good.
Such brushes with greatness helped fuel Alan Trammel's desire. But it was Kearney High School.
You know, when you think back 25 years ago, your memory gets a little vague.
That gave him a playing field to prove himself. Trammel's coach, the late Jack Taylor, laid a foundation for how to play shortstop.
First of all, I'd look at a hitter, and even to this day, you know, I'd be first thing in my mind, I was thinking, well, should I shade him in the pool? Should I shade him in the hole? Up the middle? And that's just kind of the way my mind would work. But that's where it started right here. You know, I took a few ground balls right here, you know, it brings back some very fond memories.
The bleachers for a few spectators.
A few parents, that's it.
The wood off the backstop.
The ball, a lot of times, would ricochet off the wood, and you couldn't score from third.
The outfield before there was a fence.
Basically, it was dirt. The grass didn't go out quite as far. And when a ball went past the left fielder or to pass in center field, you can see that that's asphalt out there. And let me tell you, asphalt and metal cleats don't mix. So we had a little advantage. We knew how to tiptoe a little bit better up that bank there.
Kearney High's athletic director, Tom Barnett.
He was a very mature young man, a leader on the basketball court, a leader on the baseball field. I'd love to have had him play football. I think he'd have been a great quarterback.
He was a star of the Kearney High Hoops dynasty and CIF champions his senior year under Coach Tim Short. But baseball was Trammel's first love and the game he wanted to play at the next level.
And I remember Jack Taylor, our coach, coming up to me a month prior to that saying, I don't want you to think about baseball until basketball is over.
Even starting a few games into the season,
I got off to a tremendous start. I was hitting probably close to 500 for a few weeks.
That piqued the interest of schools and scouts.
I just knew I was going to get drafted, and that was a thrill in itself. Most people didn't have me that high, to be honest with you. I think Detroit, Dick Winsek, the scout, saw something in me that maybe somebody else didn't and took a chance.
At 18 years old, Trammel was selected in the second round of the 1976 June draft, and the scout, Dick Winsek, who signed Jose Canseco and Mark McGuire, would be right again.
I put in a few games at short, so I feel very, very comfortable. Every time I look at the plate, it's just a view that I've seen so many times.
Coming up on One, Alan Trammel's quick trip to the majors and reflections from two baseball standouts, Kirk Gibson and Hall of Fame manager Sparky Anderson. The summer of '76, America is celebrating its bicentennial birthday. Alan Trammel is celebrating being part of America's game. Just 3 days after high school graduation, he'd embark on the first big adventure of his life, small town USA.
And it was just a culture shock for me.
The Tigers Single-A club in the Appalachian League in Bristol, Virginia, where a roommate helped him make the adjustment.
Because I was really lost.
But he knew his way around the diamond, and after just 1 month, an injury on the Double-A club in Montgomery, Alabama, was Trammel's ticket out of Bristol.
Got called up. That was kind of my big break.
A break that would pair him a shortstop with second baseman Lou Whitaker.
And from then on, we took off.
The Rebels won a championship that year, but the Detroit Tigers, a storied club which had been to the World Series 8 times in 8 decades, were not a very good club in the mid-'70s and seemed ready to turn the tide. The strategy, late in '77, calling up a core of 4 of the best in the minors: Alan Trammel, Lou Whitaker, catcher Lance Parrish, and pitcher Jack Morris.
I came up at 19 years old to the major leagues, and I was not ready. I needed more seasoning.
Being part of a tandem with Lou Whitaker helped. The Florida State MVP was in a new position at second base, so they both had a lot to learn.
The more that you play with somebody, of course, you're going to become more accustomed to the timing, and that paid off.
They would play 19 seasons together, an American League record.
That's 10 more years together than anybody else had been, and we're proud of that.
In 1979, Kirk Gibson joined the roster.
Well, I remember Alan was a little skinny kid from San Diego, energetic, a guy with very good hands, and a guy who was really professional from the beginning.
Alan Trammel calls the Tigers at the time young stallions who needed to be corralled.
My way or the highway.
There's no way possible he ever tagged it.
And George Sparky Anderson would be the man to do it. That June, the club hired Anderson, already legendary for leading the Big Red Machine to 2 World Series championships. Cincinnati fired him for finishing second, so Detroit was an opportunity to vindicate himself.
I told my wife, I remember after being there about 10 days, I said, I've made the gravest mistake of my life.
The Tigers had lost a doubleheader in Baltimore, and Sparky let him have it.
You guys walk through the door, you go to your locker, you put on your uniform, you think you're in the big leagues. You're not. You stink. You're awful. A big leaguer don't play like this, and a big leaguer don't lose like you people do. So I'll be truthful. If we got rid of all 25 of you, all 25, and started all over, we'd probably be ahead of the game. But we're going to change this thing. I said, because I tell you what, and Alan will remember this well, I said, God did not put me on earth to be a loser. And I'm not going to lose here. And we're going to change this thing.
He was tough on us. We used to scratch our head a lot of times thinking, what is he trying to do? And after the fact, we know what he was trying to do. He was trying to help us not only as a player, but as a person.
He would benefit from that compassion. Alan's parents had divorced just after he was drafted, so Sparky filled a father figure void in his life.
We had a special relationship, and you know, that's something that I'll remember for forever, and I cherish that.
Raised to respect authority, he respected his new manager for what he knew and hoped he could do.
What you do in the first inning is just as important as the ninth. And I'm telling you, gentlemen, when you mess up in the first, you cost us a ball game. We're not going to have that.
And I think that was one of the reasons why I was a pretty good player, and the reason why I was able to stay in the big leagues at an early age, because defensively especially, I didn't make a lot of mistakes. And so I was able to at least hold my head up defensively and grew as an offensive player.
He is described as not flashy, but steady.
I like that. I mean, that's really what I wanted to be, is just a solid player.
Solid enough to be on a team developed enough to play second in its division in 1983.
I knew after 83, I said, if we can stay healthy, they can't stop us. Because they had matured into complete men.
We came into spring training thinking we were the team to beat. Honestly, we did.
They got off to a great 35-5 start.
To us, it didn't matter who we played, to be honest with you. We were going to win.
The Tigers swept the Kansas City Royals for the American League Championship.
And the Tigers win the pennant.
The Tigers' first since 1968. In the National League, the San Diego Padres, in their own magical season, dedicated to the memory of their late owner Ray Kroc, upset the Cubs to clinch their first pennant ever.
One hopper to Nettles, to Wiggins, and the Padres have the National League pennant.
For Alan Trammel, the situation was surreal.
It goes back to growing up as a kid, sneaking into the ballpark, all the things that I had done as a kid, and now I'm a Major League Baseball player playing for the Tigers, coming home to San Diego.
World Series 1984.
Playing against my hometown team in a World Series. Boy, it was kind of overwhelming, to be honest with you.
He didn't know how the San Diego fans would react to him. Lance poked him and said, "Look, Alan, look, they're greeting you. Look at the plaques, look at the signs. Welcome home, Alan."
Game 1 was close, 3-2 Detroit.
Bergman to the bag, and the lights go out on Game 1 in San Diego.
Game 2, a thriller with Padre Kurt Bavacqua, the hero, with a fifth-inning home run to tie the series.
It's gone!
Then the battle shifted to the Motor City, a city that had endured violence, a failing auto industry whose fans needed something positive to happen. Among the crowd, 2 lifelong Padres fans who had to shift their allegiance.
You couldn't have contained my sisters and my joy. We wanted to shout louder than the 100,000 people that were there to be able to say, he's my brother.
His family, the Tigers, and the Padres all realize how Alan Trammel made a significant contribution to the Tigers winning the 1984 World Series.
Lined in the left field, that's a base hit.
He did kill us, and he did have a great series, but you knew that coming in that he was that kind of player, you know, and they had that kind of team.
Line drive, base hit to left.
Trammel was their leader, offensively, defensively. He's the man.
I got up one time in that series and hit a line drive to his backhand that he almost caught.
High drive into deep left field. Back goes Martinez, away back, it's gone.
You know, he didn't look like he had a lot of range, but he did. He didn't look like he had the strongest arm, but he did. You know, he didn't look like he was that great a hitter, but he was.
Breaking ball, hit to deep left field. Back goes Martinez, goodbye.
Including a couple of homers, the MVP.
Well, thank you, Bob. You know, I happened to be selected the World Series MVP, which I'm very proud of and honored. But if Kirk Gibson would have won it or Jack Morris would have won it, it wouldn't have mattered. It was we won.
The Tigers would savor that victory and be competitive the next few years, with Trammel winning 3 Silver Slugger awards and coming in second in the American League MVP voting en route to another division title in '87. But by 1996, Alan Trammel saw the signs.
We lost 109 ball games. That pretty much tells you it's time to move on.
There had been some talk of trades. He could have explored other clubs.
I just felt like it was very important that when I retired, that more people are going to recognize my name for somebody that stayed with one team their whole career as far as playing. And that meant a lot to me.
He'll never forget his last game, September 1996.
You know what? I think this is the biggest standing ovation he's got.
Well, this probably will be his last time at bat as a Tiger.
I started my first game in Boston in 1977. I got a base hit up the middle. My last at bat in Tiger Stadium off Milwaukee, I got a base hit up the middle.
Shot up the middle, a base hit.
That little flashback that I had was just something, a culmination of, you know, basically 20 years that just went by like that.
I don't know, Ernie, the way he's swung the bat today, we should try to keep him around a little bit.
Absolutely.
Alan Trammel's 20 years with the Tigers include fame, fortune, and maintaining his California connection. That's up next on One on One. When you wear a Tigers uniform for nearly 2 decades, you're bound to earn some stripes. Alan Trammel certainly did. A 6-time All-Star, 4 Gold Gloves, 3 Silver Slugger awards, a celebrated player with his image on memorabilia from school folders to placemats and calendars, and 4 times he graced the cover of Sports Illustrated. He was half of one of the best double-play combinations in the game, and in their prime, Trammel and Whitaker went primetime, featured on an episode of Magnum P.I. starring a lifelong Tigers fan, Tom Selleck.
Yeah, Trammel and Whitaker. No.
Trammel was well paid in the top echelon for shortstops in the 90s, and well respected for how he viewed his part of his multi-million-dollar contracts.
Every year, I was going to try to get better.
He won a special place in the hearts of Tigers fans.
So neat to see him work as he did and do a good job at it.
A ball player is a ball player, a guy that did the right things on the field and off the field all the time.
His loyalty, longevity, and good guy reputation invite a flattering comparison that Alan Trammel is to the Detroit Tigers what Tony Gwynn is to the San Diego Padres.
If that's what people want to say about me, I'm very appreciative of that because that means a lot to me. Playing in a blue-collar town, they appreciated that kind of an effort. And Lord knows, you know, people want to say, you know, I did all these great things. You know, I did some good things, but I also stunk a lot too. You know, when you play baseball for that many games and that many years, you're going to play some bad ball games.
Maybe so, but perhaps it's that humility and confidence that have served him well. After retiring, he stayed with Detroit.
I was doing some roving with the Tigers at the time and down in Toledo. I saw you play a couple times.
And in '99 was their hitting coach. But baseball is ever-changing, and to the chagrin of many Detroit fans, a new manager cut Trammel from his coaching staff.
Get back, we need you.
Yeah, hey, Alan, we miss you very much.
When one door closes, another opens. When Davy Lopes left to manage the Brewers, Trammel picked up the phone and inquired.
Then they said they were interested. I was keeping my fingers crossed.
The job was his.
Great guy, great teacher, young, dynamic, the type of guy that I think fits in with Flan and Boach.
Yeehaw!
Fits in partly because he's long maintained his connection to San Diego, not only because of his mother and sisters, but because of Barbara. They dated their senior year at Kearney High and were married on his birthday in 1978. And while he's enjoyed his very high-profile profession,
she's always been a little bit more guarded and has stayed out of the spotlight. She's definitely the guts and glue like most wives have been over the years. I probably could have spent a lot more time at home, but I was so obsessed with being a good baseball player.
The off-season was a time to make up for that, first in San Diego, then in Michigan, when they felt their 3 children, Lance, Kyle, and Jade, needed the stability of being in one place year-round.
But my wife always said that when I retired, she wanted to come back home. So, you know, it's a blessing, and I'm very glad to be back year-round.
As a longtime partner in the San Diego School of Baseball, his winters included teaching kids and working out at the stadium.
I mean, Alan Trammel's only been out of the game now a couple of years, so, you know, some of the kids that are in the clubhouse now and some of the more experienced players, they remember the type of player he was and what he was all about.
Chris Gomez remembers specifically. In 1994, when Trammel was injured and aging by baseball standards, Gomez was being groomed for the shortstop spot.
Alan Trammel had come up to me and said, "You're going to play the next month," and just to see if you can handle it.
Speared by Gomez.
And it helped me out a lot, and I was able to go out and have probably the best month of my career.
The veteran could have been the egocentric star.
That isn't the way he was taught this game. He was taught this game. You play it the best you can, and then when you have to pass it on, you help that person become the best they can be.
I just learned so much from him just being around him. You always saw him running every ball out, trying his best to make every play, and that's what you have to appreciate, and that's what you have to strive to be.
But Trammel's not all business.
Behind closed doors, if something broke out, you could be rest assured that Alan Trammel started it and was around the corner watching and giggling.
I'm a coach now. So there's a difference. I'm not a player anymore, so I need to back off that.
As a coach, he's applying a philosophy that proved valuable in Detroit. Structure.
I want you to be prepared. And if you're prepared, you're going to play better.
He just brings something to the table that you don't always have an opportunity to be around, and he has a passion for the game.
It's good to pick his brain because he's been through a lot of battles, and he's come out on top a lot of times.
Some project he's good manager material.
To look that far down the road is not the way I do things. I have a lot to learn.
A learning process that started long ago.
I just wanted the opportunity to play, and I got it.
Launching a career that earned him a place in San Diego's Breitbart Hall of Fame.
I've always been very proud to say I'm from San Diego.
And he could be honored at the next level. Cooperstown. He retired with more home runs and a higher fielding percentage than any shortstop in baseball's Hall of Fame, making him a likely candidate when he's eligible in 2002.
If I make it, I'd be extremely honored.
He will certainly get the vote of his former manager, Sparky Anderson, who affectionately calls Alan Huckleberry Finn.
Mothers and fathers, when they see their kids go to play Little League, they dream that their kid is going to be an Alan Trammel in the sense that he's going to be a good player, but beyond that, he is going to be the nicest person in the world.
When Alan Trammel was still a young big leaguer, Pirate Willie Stargell told him that when he stopped having butterflies during the national anthem, it's time to retire. For Trammel, it was more the wear and tear that told him to hang up the cleats, but the butterflies, he still has them. Still excited about being part of the game on a team he watched as a starry-eyed kid right here at home. I'm Jane Mitchell. See you next time on One on One.